most of the people that I see end up having a pretty similar pattern within the body. And in that pattern, the right side of the body tends to compress a little bit more than the left. And so when this happens, you'll see the ribs coming down on the right like this, then the hip on the right side hiking up. And the net result of this is that people tend to turn to the left and shift onto the left more than the right. But one of the things that people feel most commonly is actually tension here on the right side, especially in this area of the right flank region. And so in this right flank region, we have the lat muscles, we have the back muscles, and also we have the muscles inside, such as the deep hip flexors. And so a lot of people will sense tension in through this area, as well as in that hip flexor region. And if you're that person who's been experiencing that, you'll know that when you do things like prolonged sitting, or a sudden increase in training stress, or a sudden difference in training stress, that this area can tighten up a little bit more than usual. And so if you're like most people, when you have that experience of it being tight, then you start to ask the question, why? And so once you ask that question, usually the first thing that happens is that you're gonna try to stretch it because it's tight, right? It needs to be stretched. And so you might do exercises that open up the right side, or you might do hip flexor stretches in a kneeling position, in a laying down position, whatever it might be. But often, even if there is some level of temporary relief, you're gonna find that the second you go back to sitting or you go back to the gym, that relief is gone. And so once that happens, you take the logical next step, which is, okay, it's still tight. If it wasn't stretching, maybe it's not that the muscle is tight and needs to be stretched, but it's tight because it's weak. And so that means I need to do some strengthening. And I actually think that this is a really good place to land, because even though it can feel like a mystery when we have an area that's chronically tight, in most circumstances, if we load tight muscles progressively at the right dose and at the right rate, then we're going to get that area to relax a little bit and hold a little bit less tension, or hold more tension without us having the tight sensation. So strengthening does tend to be a really good choice. Now, once you realize that strengthening is going to be a likely solution, there are really two ways that this can go. The first way is going to be that you find things that I would consider to be low stimulus. And so think about exercises where you're just raising your knee up towards the chest to start to strengthen that hip flexor. Or maybe you're putting a small weight on your foot while you do that movement. And usually that will lead to some level of temporary relief. Now the problem here though is that with the stimulus being low, we end up not getting lasting changes, because when we go back and we have to sit for a long time, or we go back into the gym, the level of preparedness in that area is not yet at what we need, because we're not actually giving it enough stimulus. And so sometimes people will realize this, and within those exercises, they'll try to load up heavier. But if you're doing something, let's say like bringing your knee up towards your chest with a weight on your foot or something, the setup to that exercise ends up becoming a little bit awkward over time, and it can start to feel like the back is losing position, and then the hip flexor no longer becomes a limiting factor. You might feel other muscles here in the upper region of the inner thigh or in the lower abs starting to take over, and it just doesn't feel like you're doing the exercise right. Now, if that happens here, usually you just end up giving up, okay? Or the relief just doesn't stick, and you keep doing it over and over and over again, hoping for different results. Now, if you're that person who's gone through all of this and you're resourceful, which I'm sure you are, you go online and then you find this other group of exercises which are higher stimulus. And one of the best ones, and ones that you've probably seen, is called the hip flexor crunch. Now, if you haven't seen this already, my buddy Garrett Cooljan does a great job breaking down, I think, about 10 different variations of the hip flexor crunch. And what this exercise basically is it's a direct strengthening exercise for the hip flexor that works it in what's called a closed chain environment. What does this mean? Well, it teaches us to move the upper part of the body relative to a fixed lower half of the body. So in this case, we have the foot fixed to a heavy dumbbell, we have the butt resting on a bench, and then we go back and forth directly loading the hip flexor as we do a crunch. Now this exercise is much higher stimulus, and this means that the potential payoff for doing this exercise in terms of getting actual lasting changes that stick and relieving that tight sensation are going to be much, much higher. However, a lot of people make a mistake at this point, and that is that they have a capacity and tolerance mismatch. What I mean by this is they have enough strength, so enough capacity to work that hip flexor and maybe do 2 or 3 sets of 5 to 6 reps. However, after they do it, they end up getting tighter. And the reason for this is that they don't have the tolerance to work that muscle without the body producing a tense response afterwards. So they work it, during it feels good, nothing wrong. Actually, they get up, they feel better, but then later, the brain has registered that stimulus as being too much and then tightens the area back up to either the same extent as before, or in many cases, even more. And so if you do this movement and you have that tolerance capacity mismatch, what ends up happening is you get the evidence that you didn't need to strengthen the hip flexor, and strengthening wasn't actually what was going to relieve the tight sensation. So this leaves you in a state of hopelessness, thinking, oh my God, I don't have an answer. I've already tried stretching it, and I've already tried strengthening. What else could it be? And this is where you're more prone to go down the rabbit holes of posture, or maybe looking at fascia, right? Or maybe looking at breathing, or maybe even looking at crazier stuff like your vision and dental and all that. And in most cases, going down those other rabbit holes actually reduces your sense of control and your sense of agency over the situation, because in many of these cases, you're having to rely on someone else to tell you if you're doing it correctly or not. You're having to rely on someone else to give you something special to try to elicit the proper response. When in many cases, as unsatisfying as this might be, it's actually more about understanding how to dose this properly so we no longer exceed our tolerance and continue to work within our existing capacity. Now, in a second, we're going to demonstrate a way that we can dial in the dose of this hip flexor crunch to get all the benefits without risking that experience of things tightening up worse afterwards. But first, let's dive into this idea of tolerance and capacity mismatches, just so you're super clear about what we mean. We'll take about a minute to do this, and then we'll get into the exercise demo. First, we're going to define them both. So capacity, you can think of as the overall amount of stress that you can physically perform. So your strength level or your endurance level, right? How much can you actually do? And if you had a limiter in capacity, you would literally get to the point where you physically couldn't do any more, right? Your muscle can't produce as much force. So I like to think of this as being like a container, right? So here, if I have a container, let's just say filled up with all my possible strength, right? This is a certain amount of capacity, and then if I'm over here with a smaller container, that's less capacity. Now, where tolerance comes in is that tolerance is a threshold that determines what your body's response is to that stimulus. So tolerance somewhat operates independent of capacity. So let's say I have this much capacity in both of these cases. But in scenario one, my threshold at which things are going to start to tighten up might be here. In the other scenario, it might be here. Now, what does this mean? This means that I can keep working all the way until this point in scenario number one, but I can only work until this point in scenario number two. So in this case, we have two people that have the same exact level of strength or endurance, so their capacity. However, having different tolerance thresholds such that this person over here is going to get symptoms much earlier in that overall stimulus compared to this person over here. So when we're thinking about dosing exercise, it's not just are we strong enough or do we have enough endurance, but it's also what can we tolerate in this moment and can we stay within a range of tolerance so that we don't have a bad response to that particular exercise session. If we can have enough of these in a row and we can improve that tolerance over time, then we can use more of the capacity we have, and eventually, if we can challenge ourselves enough by pushing to the limits of our capacity, we can actually increase that capacity over time as well, and that's what helps us get stronger and to have more endurance overall. So with that said, let's go ahead now and we're going to demo how to get this hip flexor crunch to within a window of tolerance by manipulating the load. All right, so as we said, the hip flexor crunch is going to be a relatively closed chain exercise. We have the lower part of the body being stationary and the upper part of the body here moving backwards relative to that. Now, as I'm rolling back, I challenge those hip flexors in more of a lengthened position. Now, with that said, I have a number of ways that I can influence the overall demand on this hip flexor and thus influence how much capacity is required and how likely I am to exceed that threshold of tolerance. And we'll go through about 3 or 4 of these here and just realize that these are concepts that you can apply to modify any exercise that you might be doing. So the first one here is going to be when we're looking at doing the crunch, we can fix both feet here, which means that my left and my right hip flexor are going to have to do reasonably similar amounts of work, and it's not going to be just all the demand in one side. So obviously, if I'm doing my hip flexor crunch like this with help from both sides, it's not going to be quite as much on the side that's tight. So if I want to increase the demand there, taking one leg out and then doing it just on one side is obviously going to be a lot more demanding on the right. Now, with that said, that's going to be kind of a big jump. So if I want to target the right side a little bit more, which in this case we probably do, then we need a way to make it easier. And this is where I can use something like band assistance and hook this to something that's reasonably stable. So now with the help of the band, I can hold this and I can still work one side at a time. So here, I'm going to choke up on the band, so it's already giving me some help to begin with. Then I'm going to roll back like this. The band's giving me even more help as I come down, and then I'm using that right hip flexor to come up. Again, the band's giving me help to begin with, even more as I get to the bottom, and then it's helping me basically the whole way. Now, as I get a little bit better at that, let's say I do 2 to 3 sets of 10. It goes pretty well. The rest of the day I feel pretty good. Then the next time I do this, I can think about making this a little bit harder. And so all that I would have to do here is simply give a little bit of slack back to the band itself. And now it's giving me less help throughout, but still more help at the bottom relative to the top. Now, another way that we can make this a little bit more challenging on this right side is actually add some positional cues. So remember, your hip flexor is going to go from all of the vertebrae here into the top of the hip. So if I were to shorten it up, it would probably look something like this. So to add a little bit more demand, we can work it into the opposite or lengthened position by giving a little bit of a cue here to tuck the pelvis. We're just going to pre-lengthen this muscle. Now if I add this cue with that same amount of assistance of the band, that's going to be one step up more challenging. And now I'm loading this area to a greater extent. Again, if I were to make that change, then I want to do a session, see how I respond to it before I make another progression choice. Now we have a few more progression options here as we go. And we're going to go through 2 more before we wrap up and give our big takeaways. So our next one is going to be around the actual range of motion that we perform in terms of how low we go with the upper body. So if I'm here, obviously that's a certain amount of demand. If I go even lower, now we're talking about a lot more demand on that muscle. Once again, I sound like a broken record right now, but I would do that one progression decision at a time gauge the response before moving on to the next one. Now, obviously, we can get rid of the assistance and we can either go no help whatsoever, work it down, maybe starting partial range of motion like that, eventually working down to a little bit more full range of motion, okay? Or we could even begin to take a weight and we could put it over the top of the head, and by putting it over the top of the head, now the resistance here is further from the axis of rotation, which means I have more torque, and then again, I could progress that from a partial range of motion down through a full range of motion. All right, so the big takeaway here is that often the solution to the problems that we're experiencing are pretty simple. So yes, if we're sitting a lot, we're not moving, we're training too hard, all that stuff has to be managed as well. But if we can identify the area that's not moving well, that's a little bit stiff, usually the solution is going to be, in a very broad sense, exposing that area to progressive loading through a relatively full range of motion over time. And whether we're doing that through stretching or strengthening, we need to find the appropriate entry point so that the dose not only is within our capacity, but also within our current level of tolerance. It's often the case that when we get the dose wrong, especially when we have that capacity tolerance mismatch, that we end up misattributing that response to meaning that we haven't uncovered something deeper. This thought that we need to uncover something deeper is what leads to rabbit holes and obsession, and often expensive treatments that don't really lead us anywhere. And there's plenty of people out there who are going to try to sell you these. But here's the truth. All you need to do to make reliable progress is find the right entry point and then be very diligent in how you're progressing that stimulus over time, while also having an appreciation for how the other factors in your life are influencing that as well. Usually the rehab process is pretty straightforward, but not linear. And it's oftentimes wanting that linear progression or that fast result or that smooth, no flare-up experience that ends up causing us to jump from one thing to the other, to the other, to the other, when we can take the creativity that we have in terms of understanding these models, these alternative explanations, and just apply it to making better progression decisions. This is ultimately what I do for people, and this is exactly what I had to do and the shift I had to make to get myself out of chronic pain as well. I started thinking, how can I take all that energy that I'm putting into understanding all these potential explanations into what's actually right in front of me, which is, how do I make the best next decision in my own training to help my body make progress, even if it's imperfect and even if it's at a slow rate? Because in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months down the line, if you take this approach, chances are that you're going to be exactly where you want to be with some of these experiences. Whereas if you go from one thing to the other, the chances of that are very low. So with that said, if you need help with this, I do offer coaching. The link is down in the description. If you have questions, leave them in the comments. As always, like, share, all that stuff. And until next time, peace.